All right, happy Friday, everyone. Wave meteorologist Brian Good, as we are closing out not only the month of February, but also meteorological winter ends today. Meteorological spring starts tomorrow. Now, it actually will get colder tomorrow, which makes sense. That would happen. That's the way it goes for us. Hi, everyone. Wave meteorologist Brian Good with you all on Storm Talk. Yes, it's replacing Snow Talk again today, although there is a bit of snow to cover, and I will explain when to expect some of those changes coming up. Obviously, we're going to cover the alert day. That's a mini-me alert day, if you will, that's in place today to get you through that setup all the way through this evening. We'll talk about the weekend and then an update on how this storm will progress and a snapshot into any severe potential in the longer term that is showing up. We're going to cover all that and more. As always, you guys can comment or ask your questions on the social media side. If you're watching on the stream, and you won't be able to, unfortunately, see all those comments there. All right, so let's dive right into it, and we'll begin with at least the short-term issue, which is, of course, the wind outside. This is what it looks like right now at Hubert's Orchard and Winery at Starlight, Indiana. Yeah, a bit of a wobble happening there. Wind's not quite to advisory level yet. Well, at least last check. Let me get an update. Let's look and see. Nope, no buttons there yet. Anyway, on the gauges, advisory level is 40 miles per hour. We should start seeing those types of numbers roughly around the mid to late afternoon window. The Weather Service got a fairly long, and so did we. We did the alert day fairly long on its issuance period of roughly noon to midnight. But really, if we had to narrow it down even more, I think 3 to 8 p.m. looks to be the window of greatest concern on your strongest of wind gusts. And it's already been a windy week. Don't get me wrong. We've had the strong winds the other night that reached 43 miles per hour. I mean, those similar numbers that we had that night will actually happen here today. Just a little more longer of a window here. We'll have to deal with that. Tomorrow or yesterday, we reached about 37, 38 miles per hour. So this will likely exceed that in many spots. But even if we don't exceed it on the high end miles per hour number, it's the frequency will be, again, a little more often today on a longer duration. That's what makes today's situation stand out a little bit more than the others have this week. But we're becoming professionals of the wind, as always the case this time of the year. Just hang on tight. There's the wind advisory that's out for that front diving in. And there is still that switch over, the strongest wind in Indiana, and you see it build over the parkways this afternoon, evening. So that's the reason why all counties, I do agree that they needed to be in that wind advisory technically till midnight. Hopefully we can let that go, at least Weather Service can let that go a little earlier before we get to the midnight hour. At least it's warming us up. I mean, these numbers coming in now already close to 60. We have a good chance to get close to 70 this afternoon. The air is so dry and this wind is so strong, which, by the way, there is an elevated fire danger going up for areas just west of here into western Kentucky. So I saw a few grass fires yesterday that were very small but brief in nature. Still, though, they blocked traffic in roughly around the outer loop in I-65 area yesterday. So just please be careful. No outdoor burning in this kind of a setup, even though that the ground is not crispy dry, like if we didn't have all that heavy rain and flooding, it's still dry enough that the wind dries it out rapidly so that it becomes a fuel. So please just be careful. Okay. Again, close to 70 today in some spots. So not a bad setup at all. It is going to be quiet. This front's coming through in a very quiet nature. Most of the high res data we've been able to track does show these gusts again getting up there to this afternoon into this evening. I think 40 to 50 is going to be common across really anyone in Kentucky or Indiana can reach 40 to 50. I think it's got a limit on the 50 part. It's going to be the high end. And if that happens, it should be more in Indiana than Kentucky would be if we're going to get any number closer to that. But still, you technically don't get into damaging winds until you get to mid to upper 50s. But I still think it's going to be up there enough that a few limbs, maybe an isolated power outage, especially if your power grid is above ground, more at risk for this kind of a setup today. The wind should relax about mid-evening. I don't think it's going to be quickly at sunset. I think it's going to take a bit of a lag for the wind to relax. It may take into about 10, 11 o'clock. And then eventually it should relax later tonight. But boy, this is going to be a cold wind. Get ready for a reality check as we flip to meteorological spring tomorrow. It will be some of the coldest air we've had in a few days anyway, coming back for the weekend, especially as we get into Saturday night. But hey, this is interesting. Don't want to ignore this. Late tonight, early tomorrow, as that front is already past us, it'll bring back a batch of clouds as we get colder tomorrow morning. There is a chance for a few brief snow showers or flurries that may fly. Southern Indiana and the 71 corridor, a little more at risk for that than, say, along I-64 point south. But it's possible you may see some flakes fly tomorrow morning, especially a few hours after daybreak to about midday. That looks to be the main window to see some flurries and snow showers. Just a gentle reminder that winter is still lurking in the distance. All right, everyone good through the weekend. Type 3 for good. Type 3 for good. What'd you say, Brandon? Can we go back to snow talk? Next week has me ready for fall. Yeah, I know. Look, I am not a severe weather fan at all. I love winter weather because it's so easy to kind of prepare for and get used to and that kind of issue. Severe weather is just like it can just change your day in a second. And get exhausting when it's prolonged too, multiple days of it. But I get winter weather can be too, especially like January. I'm aware. A lot of threes. Good. All right. Here's what I'm going to do for next week. I'm going to show the Euro close-up range here because I want to try to get the storyline pieces down as we're getting more data on how this will play out for Tuesday into Wednesday. It still looks to be a crossover period of Tuesday night into Wednesday morning for the main line, and then that second round will be midday Wednesday. I'm still seeing those two potentials. Now, during the day on Tuesday itself, we will likely have some rain falling. I don't know how widespread this will be. I do think this is important. Not only do we have to watch for thunderstorms down south that could influence how much moisture travels in our area, but the general light rain that will be falling during the day on Tuesday may also keep some of the instability down a bit. So if we don't see as much action on the radar on Tuesday with some showers around, we may end up with a little more of a kick Tuesday night. So there's a lot of questions. Tuesday, while it may not seem significant in the gameplay, it is going to be a significant player on the field. So we'll watch it. Otherwise, the rain will begin to ramp up, and then here comes your storm threat into the overnight. We should start to see at least some impact, whether it's a watch or those warnings that start to develop as it'll be worse to the southwest of us. We'll start to see some influence, some kind of alert going out. I got a feeling West Kentucky, Tennessee, maybe to I-65, something like that will likely come out. I mean, I don't want to speak too ahead of term here, but that's how this is looking to unfold. This will cover the overnight period, and then we get into just about an hour or two before we get into daybreak, and that's when the line, if it's going to cause any problems into Kentucky especially, should start to show up at that point. It's not a guarantee we're going to have severe weather all the way into Kentucky, but boy, we have seen this scenario twice already this year. So why wouldn't it happen a third time? To be honest, again, patterns repeat themselves. So it's possible we may end up the same thing where we end up with some severe risk, mainly in central and southern Kentucky there. But too early to take Indiana, you guys watching there, out of the equation. Way too early. Anyway, it moves on by. Here's where we get into the curl of the low mid-morning on Wednesday and whether or not we're going to get anything that will pop in advance of that curl. That will be very limited amounts of moisture, but it is enough with a high shear environment. You can get what would be individualized smaller supercells that will begin to pop on the radar. I just don't know if they're going to pop over Indiana or will they pop up a little more towards Cincinnati. Well, that just depends on the whole speed of the system, right? So I don't know that yet. So if it ends up being faster, then we won't have to worry about this second 1-2 punch. If it's slower, which some of the data is trying to slow this down, we would have to face this scenario for Wednesday. And indeed, would it be at that point a 1-2 punch on severe potential early in the day and again midday, early afternoon. So still some questions on that. That's why we've got the entire day of Wednesday outlooked on the alert day side on our end to cover all those elements. It's a very windy system. Even if you take those storms off to the side, it's got a lot of wind with this. So it's going to be hard to avoid wind advisories on this one too. And there's a chance for that to go to snow showers and flurries Wednesday night. Don't worry about it sticking. Unlike the last little thumping of snow where we got, 3 inches in the backside of severe weather, this one's a little different. It's a little more limited on the moisture. The core of the low is a little more to the north than the last one was. All right, your severe analogs here, or the CSU learning module. Let me show you this full screen. It does have that risk that looks similar to what the Storm Prediction Center has on the right-hand side, which covers all the way up to about I-65 into Kentucky. And the reason why you don't see this go all the way over to the east is that this covers all the way to the window that would then flip the script to a new outlook, which would be for Wednesday, which would cover more to the east. And it kind of leaves us behind. I hate when we get these crossover times because you don't get the full severe outlook. Yes, it will be weakening as it heads into the night. Yes, that's fair. But I still think the threat isn't going to fade away. I just think it gets reduced. So, yeah, it's kind of a misleading way that outlooks like this get issued. But you guys are aware that if you're in the area, we're all under the risk for at least severe, in my opinion, until we get data to suggest otherwise. But it's worth mentioning this is going to be a much bigger issue for areas around, say, Arkansas into Louisiana. And we're still watching that, yes, some of these thunderstorms that develop in that area, depending on how they develop, whether it's a lot of supercell action or you get a general squall line that will eventually take over, which is what will likely happen, on whether or not they could block some of the feed. But if these thunderstorms are more linear in nature, we're not being blocked. The flow will be open. And that will allow straight in from the Gulf to feed into the area. So that won't be an issue. However, if these thunderstorms are a little more east-west oriented and develop a little more east than expected, then yes, then that is something to have to watch to see whether or not it will influence blocking the worst of the moisture getting here, which would start to affect the storm. So still, those finer details have got to be worked out. But I think right now this system really hasn't changed a whole lot, to be honest. It's just a few hours here and there on speed. There's that backlash, colder on the other end of this. And then we get it to next week, the end of next week. Boy, this is going to be a pain. There's 2 waves. Stop me if you've heard this before. 2 low pressures. They could shake hands or phase about a week from today. Which one, though, is going to be the leader in this? There's a southern piece, and here's the northern one behind the banner. You can barely even see it. And this is just the Euro. The Canadian does want to phase these, and the Euro, you know what, is trying to do that. And if they do shake hands or phase, then we may end up with a little bit more of a typical springish kind of winter feel, because we would get into the deformation band on the northwest side, which can then allow for what we call dynamic cooling, and you can get an interesting wet snow setup that can take place in this scenario. So you got to watch these. These are the sneaky ones for snow lovers in the spring season, especially, are these setups. And the models are not, they're certainly better at predicting the severe weather side in the extended outlooks than they are on the wintry side. Now it's tough. It's really tough. So we're not going to jump too much into detail on this right now at the end of next week. Just know that it needs more time in the oven, but it's certainly something that we'll have to watch. So what about our severe chances as we head down the road? Well, I think we're going to reset and get back into a winter setup this weekend on temperature, and then perhaps in temperature and in elements for the end of next week. But then the severe risk starts to show back up. Now, this is a look. You guys have seen this before, at the CFS model on severe potential. This has started running several runs back, all right? This is the same way you would look at this as the snow matrix. You want to see a particular date maybe you don't if you don't want severe weather, you see them fill in. And the more they fill in and get brighter, the more the confidence is in severe weather happening around that date. Well, it has late next week showing up. And it's because some of the models like that those two lows that it showed you, it shows the southern one becoming a severe weather maker and just ignores the clipper out of Canada altogether. Well, if that is indeed the case, yes, I can see why the CFS is hinting at severe, but it's low on potential. But boy, look at this. This really stands out. I noticed this yesterday, and it's doing it today. April 4th through the 6th, April 4th, 5th, and 6th, keep coming up as a strong signal for severe. At that point, we may get this little wintry break here. You see a lot of dark blue indicating very little thunderstorm action. That would line up with that colder setup you saw there. So that wouldn't surprise me. But certainly as we get into early April, boy, I don't like that signal. Don't like it at all. I hope that fades away as we get a little closer in time. And just like we're doing for next week, if we start to see a lot of strong agreement on that potential, we'll make sure to flag it as an alert day. Okay, here we go. The entire 10-day itself. You can see the alert this afternoon for the wind. There's the chilly weekend, and there's the, again, stormy setup next week. Don't forget, as we get into this iffy setup late next weekend, we set our clocks back. We set our clocks ahead. I told you I'm dyslexic. Set our clocks ahead 1 hour next weekend. Daylight saving time kicks in. Adam, are you agreeing with the model showing spring warmth mid-month? I think it's coming. I don't know if it's going to be mid-month, but there is a chance that if the trough, if these lows start phasing together or shake hands next week, that may last 5 to maybe 10 days. We may get stuck in that dumbbell effect and stay cooler. So that would erase the mid-month warm spell and delay until early April. That wouldn't surprise me. And that may be why April's signal is so strong, is that we're flipping back the seesaw in a dramatic way, and that leads to severe weather. So that wouldn't, that wouldn't surprise me one bit. So that's what's happening. But we'll see. We'll see. Hi, Cameron. Hope you're doing well. Is it trending stronger or weaker? Not too. It's been 997, I believe, to 985, or I'm sorry, 999 to 997 has been the pressure I've noticed on the low itself. I think it's really about the orientation of the low, and that how that impacts us on Wednesday is still a big question mark on that. I don't know yet on how Wednesday is going to play out, but it is concerning as far as it being a challenge, because we're going to have to be just alert for a long period of time. Not a whole lot of sleep with this one on Wednesday, it looks like, until we get that wind direction change. ZK, well, the strong weather, the wind today, I'm thinking 3 to 8 is the core window. The alert days will be longer. The wind advisory will be a longer period, but I think 3 to 8 is going to be the main core of the strong winds today. Obviously, it's going to be stronger when you get thunderstorms next week, but generally it'll be stronger than what we're doing in gradient winds. So at the very least, I think wind advisories will be coming next week, but there's some parts of the region that could go high wind watch. It's going to be close. It's tough when you get thunderstorms involved in that, because technically a severe thunderstorm warning would cover that. But anyway, I don't get ahead of myself. Carissa, I just joined. What did I miss? Well, you got to hang tight. As soon as I stop this feed, you'll be able to replay it back. Are you seeing weak signals for the 12th or 13th? I mean, referring to severe weather, yes, that will be the low next week. If that southern low, Cameron, is stronger and it doesn't phase with a northern low, then that southern low would eventually grow into a thunderstorm maker. And I think that's where that weak signal is coming in, especially across Texas and Louisiana. Because, again, that signal is in general for the lower 48, not just for Louisville, but I wouldn't show it to you if we were not included in those spikes there, but we are included, so that's why I showed you. And there's another way to tell that, but I won't get into it. All right, Tammy, is it Tommy? Oh, Tommy, I'm sorry. I thought it said, well, maybe it is Tammy. I am so sorry. I cannot read these monitors. I think it's Tammy. So is Wednesday supposed to be at night or in the daytime? Wednesday is daytime, morning, especially pre-dawn, in fact. But overall, once we get into about 5 or so in the afternoon Wednesday, we're out of the severe side. And we'll get into maybe a rain-snow mix. So anything on the severe side is more of a daytime issue Wednesday and high wind. Tuesday is a little bit of a toss-up. Tuesday, we could get lucky and go all the way to midnight without any issues at all and deal with all this after midnight, including gradient wind or even thunderstorms. But there are some hints this thing's trying to speed up again. So let's give it a little bit of time into the oven to cook. All right, I got to run. Appreciate it as always. Make sure to tune in today at 3 o'clock, and we'll go through some of these wind speeds and see how this is all looking. And I'll let you know if I get any new data in the extended too as we head into next week. Take care, guys. I'll see you on the flip side.